Hi guys. So Katya wasn't able to be here today. She had a personal matter come up, but hello. I'm the GP. My name is Rebel. We have a research Q&A panel today. You guys all had a chance to sign in and everything.
I can put through if you want to like stand up for the iPad so they can see you.
And let me have this open right here too.
Am I supposed to sign up? This is like the first time.
Yes. Did you scan the QR code?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, yeah. Then yes, if you could sign it, that'd be great. But like, we sign in for most of the meeting. I just moved up.
Okay, yeah, it's following. You're good.
Okay, cool. So UCI is one of the top research facilities. There's tons of opportunities for research here. And for medical school and grad school, especially if you're going into a research-oriented med/grad school, they really look for research on your resume. It's not necessarily necessary. Sometimes like med schools don't look for it, but most of the times it does make you a very competitive applicant. So it's a really good idea to get involved in research, especially early, because there's so many opportunities here at UCI for research that you can, sorry, I talked really fast, that you can really take advantage of if you start early. Yeah, so it gives you a really good experience in like a professional environment. You get to see like what it's like in a lab and actually be hands-on with the PI, the primary investigator, and your grad students. But yeah, there's so many different labs here, so you should really go into something you're interested in. And yeah, like if you're not interested in your lab, like you're going to be spending hours on hours there, and probably for a long period of time. So it's definitely something you should enjoy, right?
Is this something? Well, I'm sharing the screen, and then we can also see you. So there's like yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. So there's two different types of labs at UCI. One is referred to as packet A, the other one is packet B, and it just depends like what you're working with. If it's a clinical lab, you're kind of like asking people questions, surveys, that sort of thing. That is packet B, right? Packet B. Packet A is the more wet lab type packet, like mice, flies, birds, many different types of animals. And the way that you apply and start getting into research, you have to fill out this packet first, and that works for the full year. So when you fill out the packet, like you get to see everything that the lab is working on and like how much they expect of you, how much you plan to put in. Yeah, it's kind of like the first step into getting into a lab. But before you do this, you do need to talk to the PI or the grad student you're going to be working under first, because this comes after you've been accepted into the lab, right before you begin onboarding. And when you join a lab, it is important to keep in mind they do expect, like most labs do expect a year's worth of work. Like if you come in, they train you, they want you to put in time and work over there. So it's not a 3-month commitment, it's more of a full school year commitment. Okay. So typically the way you would start getting into labs, you could cold email a bunch of professors. The way, like this is a example email you would want to send. You'd want to introduce yourself, just kind of give like a general, like 1-2 sentences on like who you are, what you're doing, why you're interested in this lab. It always helps to read like a paper or two of the PIs beforehand, just so you know what they're working on. If you kind of give like a generic email to like 20 professors, they're gonna know it's a generic email. They're gonna know they're just like one on a list of 20. It's not very, I want to be part of your lab. It's more like, just get me into any lab and they can tell, you know? It's important that you kind of seem as if you want to be in their lab. But yeah, you have to be polite, be professional. This is it's not like a job. You will be like taking this through a class, but this is a professional environment where you can get a letter of rec, where you could potentially get a job in that lab after you graduate as well. So it's important to put your best foot forward. Okay. Oh yeah, so this is the difference between packet A and packet B. Packet B is clinical laboratory work, so working with humans and patients. Packet A labs. So packet A labs are more experimental, versus packet B labs would be like focused on like surveys, like more like human oriented research, right? Packet B is a little bit more commitment sometimes, and it's a little bit more on paperwork because you are working with humans. But packet A labs are great experience as well. I'm in a packet A lab and I love it. A lot of people I know are in packet B labs. It's really up to you, whatever you're into. Okay.
I think I don't know if anyone's signed up for this. I've also been considered.
I think you're gonna confuse them. Sorry. Questions. Was it me and you?
Actually, also, okay.
Okay, so we have a couple people who have been in labs at UCI that can answer these general questions and like just give you more of a look into it.
Okay, so hi, I'm Emily. I'm the community service chair. Okay, so I'm finished with my research lab. I was in research my first year, and my research was really quick. So it's like 1 year long.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine, and I'm the secretary of AMSA UCI. And I'm not currently in research right now, but last year I did kind of an independent type of research. So I did it through, it was all online, and I did it through this program called All of Us, which it's run by the NIH, and it's contracted with several schools, including UCI. And so what they aim to do is they want to compile like a very large database of electronic medical records, and it's anonymous. And the purpose of that is to for researchers to basically mine the data and find correlations or associations or anything like that. So yeah, that's an overview.
Right, hi everyone, I'm Matthew Vichigura. I'm the webmaster of AMSA here at UCI. I didn't do research here at UCI. I did my own research project. I did that for a year, wrote a whole paper on it. Pretty standard for, I think, how research projects go.
I'm at the biolab here at UCI, so we do experimental work on mice, and we are working on figuring out the circuit, how your circuitry changes as Alzheimer's develops and other neurodegenerative disease develops. So basically how that disease changes your brain over time. I guess we can go one by one and kind of go through the questions, like going down together. That sounds good. So the way I got into my lab, at first I did like cold email professors, but that was like mid-COVID, so that didn't really work. I actually saw a little ad that my grad student posted on Facebook, and I just like emailed her right away. I was like, hey, I saw your ad, I'm interested in joining. And then we just set up an interview from there, and I got in there. So it was like kind of like spur of the moment, like saw an opportunity, just went for it. But yeah, that's how I got.
Yeah, so I got into my research basically through a family friend, and her husband was one of the faculty members at UCI School of Medicine. And she basically told me that, oh yeah, he works with this All of Us program. And if you want to connect with him, you can do that. So it was basically just totally unrelated to the Bio 199. First of all, I didn't start off as a bio major, so I came into UCI knowing nothing about the 199 process. Like all of that presentation that you just saw was totally new to me even. I mean, I've heard of it, but first time seeing it like laid out. So just goes to show that you don't have to even follow that process. You can totally just do your own thing, find another way to get research, do an independent thing. So anyway, I contacted him, and basically through the All of Us website, you would register as a researcher. Since UCI is contracted with them, then you're allowed to do that as an undergrad student. So they don't just let anyone access all the data. And yeah, that's basically how I got into it. I emailed him, like Ramon said, I did have to say like, I'm interested in what you're doing. I looked at his faculty profile. I looked at what he's working on. He does medical statistics. So his main field was statistics. And so basically I said, oh yeah, I took a statistics class in summer and I really liked it. And I like to see how you can actually apply this information, blah, blah. So yeah, that's how you would tailor your email in that regard.
For me, I applied for research when I was a freshman. It was my first quarter at UCI, so it was fall of my freshman year. It was like literally a month in when I was at UCI. So school usually starts in September, so I applied in October. So I was like, I only been at UCI for like maybe 2-3 weeks. And so you only each like major, they sent out the department email. So I was a pharm sci major back then. So in the pharm sci department email, they sent out a flyer saying this professor, he's looking for students to be part of his research, right? So I was like, I was a freshman, I was like, I'll give it a shot, you know, like the worst thing happens, like I get turned down. So in my head, I didn't actually think I would get in because, you know, who would accept a freshman? So actually, I emailed the professor saying that I'm interested in his research, but the funny thing is on the flyer, it's very vague. It didn't tell us what the research was about. It just said, oh, professor's looking for undergrads, and that's it. It doesn't tell you the top of the research or anything. So I just, you know what, I just want to be research. I don't care what the topic is. So I just emailed him, give it a go, and by the end of the week, I got accepted into this lab. So the way I get, I didn't do the whole 199 fill out the packers or anything. How I got to research was, through a flyer I saw, and then I just, reach out to the professor.
So I just wanted to mention really quickly, you don't like you don't have to do research through Bio 199, but the benefit of doing so is just you get like a couple of units for your transcript. It can be a GPA boost, especially if you consistently get A's in Bio 199. So that is like a potential benefit. But yeah, you don't need to be in Bio 199 for research at all.
Yeah, mine was Pharm Sci 199, so it was different major, but it was still research.
Sure. So, hi everyone again. So when I got into, so it wasn't really a lab per se. So research is kind of like an umbrella term, if you will. You can do research in multiple different things. So I didn't work in a lab. I actually was interested. This was back when Teslas were relatively new. So that's what I did my research project on, was Tesla vehicles. So Tesla's main production vehicle was the Model S that came out in 2012. And then 2015 is about when it came out with the Model X. So what made Teslas mostly available was the Model 3 in about 2017, which is right about when I did my research project. That's when Teslas were starting to become widely adopted by people. I think most people now know Tesla is the biggest selling electric vehicle. So I was kind of interested in just kind of like seeing about that because I'm really into cars. It's kind of like my whole thing. So I reached out to my uncle's best friend. My uncle has car connections, and then his best friend also. He was the general parts manager of Tesla for Southern California for a while. So underneath him, I did a research project for a whole year. I was a senior in high school while I was doing it. So the point of my research, we haven't gotten there yet, but basically the way I got into it was by reaching out to him, and he was able to get me to a position to work at the service center in Buena Park. So like not too far from here, maybe 40 minutes. So basically the reason why I mentioned all of this is because I actually didn't even know that Bio 199 even existed, I think, until like yesterday. So I'm not even a bio major, I'm a psych major, so that's probably why I didn't know about it. So yeah, what we've kind of all been saying is that you don't need to basically do the whole Bio 199 thing. If you want to get into research, if you have personal connections, that also works.
So I kind of talked about my lab studies, but
So I'll start. So my research was not what you expect. So my research was during COVID, so everything was on Zoom. We had no in-person classes, so that meant like we couldn't be on campus. So our research was a literature-based research. So we didn't do anything hands-on. It was all like your own work at home, basically. It was remote. So in literature-based research, what we did was we did a meta-analysis or a systematic review on adverse drug events. So basically our team, there was only 4 undergrads, so they only took in 4 undergrads. So I was from them. We were split into 2 groups, and basically within that group, we're supposed to go through 100 research paper. So before professors, they conduct their actual research, you guys have to do research before that. So you guys have to, like, they have to go out in the database and see who have done that research before and how can their new research be different. So you have to look at other research, and that's where you start in the very beginning. So we were the beginning team. So we basically helped the professor go through multiple research paper and pulling out paper that would be relevant to their own research. So yeah, mine was all literature based. It was all remote, and we didn't do anything hands-on. Yeah.
I guess I'll go next. So like Emily said, my research was also entirely during COVID, so it was all online too. The way that I did that was that the way that you would mine the data in the all of us database was you had to know how to code. So you had to know how to do either Python or R. So basically I took a crash course in Python and I started on just doing that research that way. So yeah, I was meeting with the professor, kind of him giving me guidance on what to do. Oh, and also I got to choose the one thing that the reason why I would highly recommend doing this one is you're able to basically design your own project. So, which is really good because you can present it at Europe, which is the big symposium for undergrad projects. You could put it on med school application and blah, blah, looks really impressive, right? So anyway, what was it? Okay, so the topic that I chose was correlations between autoimmune diseases and various other conditions like depression, anxiety, basically mental health disorders. Partially because I personally am that's was personally relevant for me, so that kind of also drove that. Again, choose something that's personally relevant to you. It will help you stick with it. It will help you when the quarter gets rough, it's kind of like it's much easier to continue to do something if you actually have a personal interest rather than just another class, another boring thing. Anyway, so that's what I did, and what I did this way, yeah, I just coded. So I guess to go more into how it would work. So all of the EMRs, they're converted into variables. So there's conditions, there's vital signs, those are converted into variables, and then that's how basically you would use code to find correlation between them. So you can make charts, you can make graphs, you can do logistical analysis, you can do all kinds of statistical tests, and yeah, that's basically how it would work.
So hi, I'm Angelina. So I'll start from the first question. So I'm in the I joined winter of my junior year, and how I joined was I just emailed a bunch of professors, and he was one of the few ones that responded to me. So I was like, cool, and I chose cancer because cancer it kind of I have a special connection to it, so that's kind of drove me to apply to the lab. And it was my lab study, so cancer information, specifically the interaction between a protein called the NRP inflammasome, which is inflammation chain of cancer. So we study how that protein interacts with mitochondria or DNA, which is what activates that inflammasome and causes inflammation. It's a whole cascade. So we studied that. Recently, we're more interested in how that structurally works. So that's what we're studying right now. And what do I do specifically? So I'm very hands-on. I do bench research. So I do things ranging from PCR to protein purification, gel electrophoresis, and a bunch of different assays. Yeah, so that's basically what I do.
So I did cover what I was doing before, but what I do specifically. So in my lab studies how circuitry changes through neurodegenerative diseases. So when I first started in the lab, I was still in COVID, so I did online work. What I was doing was going through images of brain scans and counting every single cell that was labeled, and that was super fun. But when I got into actual in-person work, I was able to conduct PCR. I use the cryostat and the virotome, which they both are brain slicing equipment. So that's how you would get the slices of brains that we then scanned and imaged. So I honestly personally started enjoying it a lot more once I got in person into the lab. I thought PCR and cryostat
So what I did specifically at the service center that I mentioned earlier, Teslas don't actually need too much work, as you might be able to imagine. They don't have as many parts as a regular gas car vehicle. So a lot of the things we did was like tire rotations and things like that when they would come in for those kind of things. Brakes, because still have traditional brakes. Some of the bigger issues that we had that we would work on was sometimes one vehicle that I remember specifically is we had a Model X, which is the one with those crazy doors, the party doors where they do all over. Came in and it had been involved in like a flood kind of thing. So they had like somehow flooded the car, not like into the interior, but like enough to where it actually would not drive. So all Model X's have two motors. There's the big one in the back and then there's a small one in the front. So the big one in the back is what pushes that majority of the weight around, because as you might be able to guess, it's a heavy vehicle. So that one that came in that I remember specifically is you could not put it into drive because it had no rear motor power. So the front motor worked, but the rear motor did not. So we had to kind of go in and analyze like where was the issue? Was there an issue in the cabling? Was the battery not able to supply power to both motors? But what ended up happening was that the water had actually flooded the rear motor and it shorted it out. So the battery was fine. I actually went in and what they had me do was check the voltage in the back, which was actually kind of scary because it's a deadly voltage in those cars. So did that. And then, yeah, it was basically, you just had to push that whole car around to get it in and out of the shop because while the front motor worked, it was not enough power to move that whole thing. So, yeah.
Kind of cover like the next two questions together. But in my lab, they do require kind of heavier kind of hours. We require 3 to 4 units a week, and that translates to anywhere from like 9 to 16 hours. And typically for 3 units, they expect you to do 12. For 4 units, they expect you to do 16. So it's a little bit heavier, but there's a whole different range. People I know that are in lab for 6 hours, some people 4. But like you can find different labs that have like time restrictions. But this isn't the first and like only one I've been in. I joined this one spring quarter of freshman year, so I've been in it for almost like 2 years now. I really like it.
So I do 3 hours, not enough, 3 units of lab 1 and 9, which equates to like 12 hours. But usually, yeah, but usually I spend like a little bit more than that, just like sometimes like it's never so long. Sometimes I just like so I still extra to help out. And this is not really the first research lab there. I was in one before that. It was like during COVID, so it was like online. We basically like study like genetic stuff, like zebrafish, stuff like that. But I prefer the one I'm in right now because I like to do like hands-on.
For me, our research was supposed to be 4 units. So everyone got 4 units except for me. So I was a freshman. It was my first quarter at UCI. So I had exceeded 18 units. So in order, the maximum is 20 units, and in order to pass that, you have to fill out the form. So since I was a new student, like a very new student, they wouldn't let me exceed my 20 units. So I was only able to earn 30 units, even though I was doing work for a 4-unit class for research. So yeah, so I got 3 units, but I was doing 9 hours of work. And then it was my first research, and I haven't done any other research besides that one. And then my research lasted for a year just because we got to publication stage within a year, and that was it. And since when you reach publication, you can't have your lab is basically done. So yeah, that was my experience.
So for me, it was, again, it was not a registered class, so there was no like strict, requirement, but, I would say that every week it was maybe around 12 hours of work. Just like writing the code, troubleshooting took a long time to do, believe it or not. Anyways, so it was nice because it was flexible. There was like I could whenever there was like I had like a final or something, I would email him and be like, hey, sorry, I have finals. It's okay if like I was only able to do XYZ and not the rest. So that was really nice. And then I mean, first lab, yeah, no, I have not been in any other lab. And how long I did it for, so I did it for 2 years. So just literally during the 2 COVID years. And that was enough for like 2 cycles of, applying for through the All of Us website, then applying through the Europe website and presenting. Again, I would strongly recommend doing your own independent project and presenting. It was a really cool experience. And I don't know, I forgot whether they talked about it, but even if you are in a lab, I've heard that if you are working on like for a professor's project, like for the PI's project, if you work with them long enough, then they may let you have your own like side project, and that's how you would get your like independent or not independent, like that's how you would design your own project, and that's then how you would be able to present for Europe. I heard that from a freshman year class from a professor who had like a day to give research. So yeah, that's another thing that you can do.
So for how long I did my research, like I said, it was like a private kind of research project, not necessarily for the school, so it wasn't like measured in terms of units, but as for duration, it was a year-long project. I think I started in the middle of 2017 and finished around in the middle of 2018. And that was my first lab, or for like not lab, but like my first research project, and kind of has been like my main and only one since.
Specifically what I'm doing for research, first was really cool. Seeing all the technology, like kind of how it all worked around me, it was like really experience. And I kind of like, even in research, like I was able to, so I got trained on like my equipment, right? I was able to then train other people and kind of teach others as well. So I was able to like do research, but there was also some like leadership opportunities in there, which I think also kind of helped me and helped me grow. Like from research specifically as well, I was able to appreciate how long research takes and how much work it really is. When you read like papers and like you see, like, oh, like they surveyed like 263 mice. That's a lot of mice, and it's a lot of work to analyze 263 mice. It takes a long time. When you read it in a paper, it takes you 2 seconds to read that sentence. It takes like 2 years to do that work. So it's a really like eye-opening experience, honestly, and like able to really appreciate research, how people find things out, and how like science grows. It's really cool.
For me, it was definitely like a big like knowledge like gap. So when I first joined, I had like no idea what the lab was about, which is like normal, which is probably what's gonna happen when you first join the lab. But like you do learn a lot about like the specific topic that your lab like studies on. So I think to me that's really cool. And yeah, like once you and like get to train them and kind of like and explain to them like what you do research. And then like when I did that, that made me realize like, oh wow, I've learned so much about this topic and like I've come really far, And the experience itself is really good like for your resume, because like if you're like planning on working in the industry after you graduate, like it helps a lot, like if you already know how to like run a PCR or like do all the like protein purification and all those things. And personally, I'm pre-med, so I'm going to med school. I am doing Europe right now, and I am like planning on presenting at the symposium at the end of the year. So that can be like it'll count towards like a poster presentation, which I can like talk about when I'm applying to med school.
So for me, when going through the whole process of learning all the statistical tests that goes into a research project, or learning like all of the variables, it helped me like understand other papers that I've read a lot better. Like, I don't know how many of you guys have taken Bio 100, which is like a second or third year class, but in it you read like a lot of papers. And I took that class and I realized, oh, like all of the stuff like in the methods section that's like, oh, we did this test and that test, and like a lot of stuff like it's kind of like looks like really scary and like not understandable, but I actually was able to understand like more of it. And so I thought, oh, like that's really helpful. And like again, like how Ramo said, it takes a lot of time to like do the actual data collecting and then results interpretation. And I found it easier to know know what an abstract is, hypothesis, like how to like read it better, but like know like more of what it actually means. So yeah, I found that really helpful.
For me, what I gained from research is the connections that I made. So the two professors who I worked with are, they're currently at a school of pharmacy at UCI. One of them is like the head of the clinical part of pharmacy, clinical practice, I guess. And then the other professor is like an assistant professor. So yeah, so I made connections, and then the people who I worked with were all undergrads. So I believe I was the youngest. The others were like second, third year. So yeah, so after research, we got to talk to each other. They kind of helped me, help me plan my next 3 years at UCI. So it was really nice knowing people, especially when you're a freshman. You have no idea who like you don't get opportunity to make friends, especially when you're on Zoom. So it was nice to have human interactions during that time period.
So I think what I gained from research, I'd say the easiest thing I think of was a lesson learned, because I decided to research something that was relatively new. Like I said, Tesla was kind of like a new company back then, and not too many people had their cars. So there wasn't a lot of data out there on Tesla specifically that I was actually looking for to support my argument, which was basically that electric vehicles are better than gasoline-powered vehicles. So I kind of had to learn what it taught me was how to broaden my research beyond just like a specific like point. So instead of just saying, Teslas are better than gasoline vehicles, I had to broaden my research topic to saying just electric vehicles overall can be better than gasoline-powered vehicles. Because Tesla was not the first one to create an electric vehicle. So I was able to find more information that way by broadening my research focus.
The influence that research had on my undergraduate career, like a couple of us mentioned, I've done Europe last year and I'm doing Europe and AMSA research again this year. So because of research, I've been able to have so many opportunities to make my resume better. Europe especially, it's like you apply for a grant and like you can do it in fall or spring, but basically your research lab gets money from that grant. And one, it's really cool to say like, oh, I got a grant for my lab. But two, you get to kind of do work with that. So some labs will give you that money and like let you like do a project on your own. Some labs will kind of assign you to a project and kind of work on. But you get to see your project grow, and then at the end of the year, you get to present it in the symposium. And it's a really cool experience to go professionally, kind of stand up nice in front of your board and answer like questions from professors who come up to you and like are interested in your research. You get to show off your knowledge a little bit, and it's a really cool experience. Right now, I'm working on excellence in research, which is like, so Europe is you get to make a poster about your research. Excellence in research is writing a thesis. And you can do that for bio, I think like any like STEM major, but if you like do excellence in research, there is opportunity to get honors in your major. So that kind of varies from major to major. So that's kind of something you want to look into. But excellence in research, you get to write a thesis, and at the end of the year, when you submit it, and if you get excellence in research, they publish you in a student journal. So that's also
what research influenced my undergraduate career? I think I've kind of like touched base on that in the last question, but basically like it just like taught me a lot about like what happens in a lab and all the necessary like skills that you kind of like need in order to like work in a lab after you graduate. So for me, that's like my backup plan is to like work in the industry if I don't get to med school. Yeah, actually like kind of helped me like solidify like my interest in medicine, because I was kind of like in between like just working in the industry or like going to medicine, and ultimately I realized that I didn't really like want to just spend my whole life in the lab, I guess. So that's just kind of helped me realize like what I like to do better. But I do like my research. I learned a lot from it. And
For me, I really liked how the research was really inspiring to me. It helped me see like what else is out there other than just whatever you get in a classroom. Going off of that, it helps you like explore more what your options are, what other careers you could have. If you don't know what you want to do, you could, go into a lab and just see like what opportunities are available to you and what other like direction you can take any study in or any field in. And another thing that just for connections. So if there's like another opportunity or a letter of rec or something else that you would benefit from, you're more likely to get it that way. And yeah, again, with the Europe, it helps with presenting, helps with your resume, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
For me, did I like my research? To be honest, I did not like my research. I was miserable for like 2 quarters. It was just because my research isn't the typical research that you do. Mine was literature based. So basically what we had to do was that we had to stare at our screen for like 6 hours each day, going through like hundreds of research paper. And as a freshman, you're coming in, you know nothing. So like I'm reading this like paper that like people have published, like experts have published. And I'm reading it, I have no idea what they're talking about, but I have to sit there for 6 hours a day going through each paper because I was doing a systematic review. So you have to read each paper and pull out information from each paper. But yeah, so that's what we did. I'm not discouraging you guys from not doing research. It just shows that there's so many research out there. There's so many types of research. Some research might not be meant for you. So for my first research, it wasn't meant for me. And I think majority of us who were part of that research agree that it wasn't meant for us, just because it was just, we were basically thrown without anyone holding our hands, basically. But has my research had an impact on my undergraduate career? It did. It had like a big impact. We were able to publish, so that's a big thing. And then we got an opportunity to present at Europe symposium during spring quarter. So yeah, that was nice. But for me, during that year, I got really lucky. The symposium was on Zoom. So I had cheat sheet. Usually when you do in person, you have to know everything, right? So I got cheat sheet because it was on Zoom. I had like one screen here and the other screen had my notes. I was like basically reading line by line while I was presenting. So I think I did have fun because I was with everyone. Yeah.
So I did like my research project. project. You might be able to tell because I talked about that, but I think the influence that it had on me was a few different things. One obviously was teaching me how to just do research overall in general, which you could obviously apply to, you know, some of your other classes as you will see when you get into them. So it kind of teaches you how to do that. So I mean, thankfully for me, I did it my senior year of high school. So going into college, it wasn't like out of the ordinary for me to do a research project. I was like, oh yeah, I've done one of these before. Mine was like 15 some pages. It's like, you know, not a big deal. And then it kind of also like just overall like taught me how to just present yourself professionally, basically like sell yourself in a way. Because when I did present my research project in front of a panel, and it just brought a lot of joy to just kind of like share this information to people that didn't know a lot about, you know, something that I was passionate about. And, you know, just, you know, sharing what you had to know and, you know, being professional about it and doing a whole presentation and things like that. And so kind of getting rid of that stage fright, you know, kind of thing. So, and just kind of teaching you like, hey, you know, I can do this kind of thing. So yeah.
So if you guys have any like, questions now, feel free. Like, lab, Vera, excellent, like whatever. For it is. Yeah.
Was there anything that any of you did that made you realize, oh, I do really enjoy this, or oh, I really don't enjoy this before you got into your lab? Like kind of like help you figure out before.
Oh,
You know what I
like,
mean? So that you don't have to like get it and not like it kind of thing, which is, I mean, it's a good experience, you know, if you don't like it, it's good to know. But like, you know, if there's any like tips that you have for figuring out before you get into your lab, so you can kind of find something that you really like.
Yeah. I think like the biggest thing is just to choose a topic that you're interested in. Like I was really into neuro and like neurodegenerative diseases and stuff. So I wanted to look into something more like Alzheimer's, Huntington's, Parkinson's type B. But like I think a big part of research is also the work that you do. And sometimes you won't necessarily know what you're gonna do when you go into it. So it is kind of like a flip of the coin. But I guess what helped me is just like going into something that I'm interested in.
I think it also helps to like kind of take a tour of the lab before like you officially join, just so you can like kind of meet the PI and meet like people that you're like probably gonna work with. And it's kind of important to like kind of know the vibe of the lab before you join it, because sometimes you do end up in labs where you don't get to do much, or you don't get to learn much because like maybe like the classes you were under aren't as like enthusiastic about teaching. So, you know, it's important to like kind of like just be in that environment first and to kind of see if it's like a right fit for you and see if it's like a learning environment.
I guess the other thing is that before you even email, the first step is like when you're reaching out to someone. So like, for example, if you're gonna, you know, cold email a professor out of the blue, you should read up on kind of like the research they've done and what they're currently researching on. So that's kind of like your first like factor, whether you're even gonna like where you're going or not. Because if you're reading about the current research that they're doing and you're like, wow, this is boring, like then you should definitely steer clear away from that because you're just probably not gonna have a good time.
Yeah, just like what everyone else said, just a topic that you like. You don't really know exactly what you're going to be doing, but you know, if you don't like it, you don't have to stay. You can totally just leave after a quarter. Like I had a friend who did research in the lab for just like one quarter because she just hated it, so she just switched to another one. So don't be afraid to just like try and see how it is, and don't be afraid to like change it if you don't like it.
A lot of labs have websites too, and they list the active projects going on. So sometimes like papers might have been like what they work on, but usually they're saying what they're actively working on too. So if you're more interested in what they're actively working on, like that's also like
If you want cold email professors, how long in advance should you email them?
I'd say like a good amount in advance. Honestly, like 75% of professors probably won't respond. If they don't have availability, if they're not interested, if like anything, they like straight up just, they won't even tell you, they'll just not respond. So, I think like if you really want to have like a good chance of getting into a lot of that, you'd want to do, if you want to get into, if you want to get into research fall quarter, I'd say start emailing summer, you know, but, yeah. like,
Probably
I'll-
email you it's like a lot of professors are from the summer.
That's true,
And then you also probably want to leave yourself room because even though there's a good chance that you'll email a professor and they just will look at it and be like, nah, my lab is full, you know, I'm not gonna take it one, just not respond. It doesn't hurt to send like another follow-up email to your original. Because I do it all the time, you know, with my work and everything. Someone will send me an email and I'll read it and I'll be like, yeah, I'll get to that later. And there is new technology now where you can sit there and mark and say, remind me or whatever, but most people don't do that. So send a follow-up email down the line, but you want to give yourself the room to send the follow-up email, and that follow-up email has to also have room, you know, for them to like get the process going and things like that. So I'm gonna say 6 months in advance. That seems like it could just like go stale kind of thing. But I would say if you're trying to get into fall, probably be doing the last 2 months of spring quarter. Probably it's probably your best bet.
I also want to add on to that. So like spring quarter, early summer is a good time because that's when like a lot of people like that already in the lab, they're graduating, they're leaving the lab. So then the PIs are like trying to fill those spots. So that's when like they're most like actively like recruiting. So like you'll have like the most chance of getting into the lab when you apply then. And then also they love it when you're like super dedicated and be like, oh, I can like start in the summer instead of just like starting in the fall. Like they love it when you go do free work for them. So, you know, yeah, apply early. It's probably late spring, early summer.
I had a follow-up, is there like a place that you can go to find some of those websites? Or like, do they give it to you?
You can look in their faculty profile usually, or just look up last name lab. It will like 90% of the time come up. Yeah.
I think there is also like a bio when they're that website that has what's going on. So from there, you can find their email, you can find their last name. I think maybe the best bet is to.
They're like an administration here at UCI that will you can like meet with them and kind of like tell you about the different ways you can get into research. Because I did that, I just can't remember what their name was. And then they'll give you like.
I think there's office, service library, there's a URL.
Yeah, so you can meet with them.
It's on the, I believe it's on the 5th floor of the science lab, and there's an office for research.
And then they'll kind of like tell you how to get the connections you need or where to find them and that kind of thing.
Is that store? I think that's something different. Yeah.
Fifth floor of some.
Yeah.
I'll go and look at my emails too, and if I find it at some point, I'll be able to like mention that next time we meet. And then I think there's something about like a program called Handshake, I believe. I think that will also help you reach out to other people as well.
Yeah, Handshake's good for like jobs, internships, anything. Yeah. It's more like for students, so versus something like Indeed. So it's really good. I would recommend.
Actually, it's more for UCI students. You have to log in with your UCI account. And then look at your emails. Like I know Biosci department, they sent out like weekly emails. There's some important stuff in there. Some people might just like trash, but read through it. That's how I found my research. So make sure to read your emails.
That's a good point too, yeah.
They want to help you. So there's like some opportunities in that email for you guys.
It's a lot of emails, but.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen jobs offers before in those emails, events. Yeah, it's really helpful.
Also, if you go to like your professor's office hours, like if you go, you show up and you're dedicated. Like if you ask them like, hey, what are you doing for research? And they might even mention to you like, oh, we have an opening. Like, do you want like, or you could just like ask, hey, do you have any openings? And if you're just like proactive in there and you're in person, then they'll be more likely to say yes, just because you're more familiar. So
That's true. If you're really active in participation, like on your name, and had some professors who like just had a quarter, they're like, by the way, I have like some openings in the lab, if you guys want to join. So like professors are also like likely to get into research because most of them here are conducting research.
I think it's like if they want to do research here at UC, they also have to teach a class, right? Yeah, so the general rule for professors here is that, which is why a lot of them are doing like research and then that's why they're professors here, in order for like the professors here to conduct research at UCI, they have to also teach at least one class. So typically you can tell which professors are which by the way they act as to why they're here really. But,
So painfully obvious.
yeah.
Any other questions?
And if you guys want to meet with us like privately, like you don't want to broadcast yourself, you know, you can meet with us afterwards as well.
Definitely. But yeah, I think we are like almost
Yeah,
like
so-
last, yeah, at 7. So thank you guys for coming out today. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to like shoot us an email. I think or our personal info is on the website, so text, email, whatever.
And if you look through the weekly emails, if you're subscribed to that, if you're not subscribed to that and you want to subscribe to our weekly emails, come see me after and I'll add you to the list. But we actually send out a lot of good info, as well as a lot of our contact information is on there too. So if you want to just like message us directly, you know, there's ways you can do that too.
Thanks for coming out, guys.
Yeah, I can do that.